Hello there, dear viewers of Statu Nascendi channel. Today it is my great pleasure to interview Dr. Begum Burak. She's a Turkish independent researcher who defended her PhD degree in 2015. She collaborated with various universities in Italy, in United Kingdom, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Spain. She's interested in modern history, Turkish studies, discourse analysis, media and politics, democratization matters related to religion and politics, secularism, democratic theory, comparative democratization, matters related to military coup in Turkey, and political culture in Turkey and in the broader Balkan region. How are you, Dr. Burak?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. Everything is fine. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. My question to you is about your thesis, your dissertation, which you defended in 2015 at Fatih University. It was recently published as a book in 2022. Could you tell us a bit more about your thesis and what kind of change took place since that time in Turkey? And could you tell me if this is still relevant in your country?
Yes. First of all, I want to thank you very much, Dr. Piotr, for your kind invitation. It's an honor to be here in your channel and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about my studies. Yes, I defended my PhD thesis like 7 years ago, and it was published as a book from Generis Publishing in the early 2022. In early this year. Yes, lots of things have changed, as you mentioned, in Turkey since that time. After my graduation, a failed military coup attempt took place in Turkey in 2016, and unfortunately, it was one of these institutions which got closed down after the failed military coup attempt. But luckily, I had defended my thesis, and I had the PhD degree officially. I became a doctor, and I had the chance to publish my thesis as a book. Yes, the main concept of my thesis is the concept of undesired citizenship. Actually, this concept has been discussed by many scholars while talking about the equality discussions in Turkey and what kind of citizens have faced discrimination in Turkey so far. So this is actually a really dynamic issue to discuss because things have changed in Turkey. In my thesis, actually, I classified four different types of undesired citizens, and one of them is the Kurdish citizens. Other group is the non-Muslim citizens. The other is the Alevi people, and the other group was the practicing Muslims. But this can be classified as the undesired citizenship regime, promoted in the early Republican period. So when Turkey was founded as a secular republic, the identity of Turkey was supposed to be Sunni, Muslim, Turkish, and also secular. So the practicing Muslims, non-Muslims like the Armenians, and also Alevi people, the group that don't adopt Sunni Islam. So all these were seen as the others of the republic. But as you said, many things have changed. So since 2002, AKP regime has been ruling Turkey. So the practicing Muslims are no longer undesired. So the people wearing that scarf can work in the public offices, and but still the Kurdish people to some degree, the Alevis and the non-Muslims are still can be conceptualized as the undesired citizens. So yes, I agree with you, many things have changed. So I try to analyze the media discourses about this citizenships. For example, I selected some key events like the capture of Abdullah Öcalan, the leader of the PKK terrorist organization, and I try to analyze the Kurdish identity, or with this specific event. So my thesis is really long. It's long. It has like 557 pages long. So I selected many key events related with each identity, and I try to use critical discourse analysis, and I try to look at two newspapers in terms of their circulation. One was the Kemalist newspaper Hürriyet, as maybe large population was reading it. But from the conservative side, Zaman Daily was one of the best-selling dailies at that time period. So scientifically, I chose these two newspapers and I tried to analyze them. In terms of content, it seems a bit, undesired, according to this Turkish academia at the moment. But I'm happy with my thesis, and thank you very much for asking me this question and to tell about my study.
You've mentioned about Zaman Daily, and it got closed in direct aftermath of the failed coup. Could you tell me about the background behind this decision? And also, my second following question would be how hard it is to be an academic in Turkey with your views.
Thank you. That's a really good question, and it's really important, I think. Well, just a very short time after the failed coup attempt back in 2016, the government, the state discourse argued that this failed coup attempt was staged by the Gülenist network. So Gülen community, which once was seen as the movement of intercultural dialogue, was named as a terrorist organization. But actually, like long time ago, like in late 2013, there was this conflict between the government and the Gülen community because of this, like the corruption scandals and other issues. So the picture is still not very clear, to be honest, because the reports, both from the local entities and also from the international organizations, have not been, completely released about the background of the coup. But yes, many institutions, like the newspapers, the universities affiliated with the Gülen group, or the FETÖ, as they now call it, this terrorist group, the so-called terrorist group, they were all closed down. So it was a real risk and a real challenge for many scholars like me, because having been graduated from this school, or focusing on a newspaper like that, and my rhetoric was this newspaper was one of the best-selling dailies, like it was a legal paper, circulated all around Turkey and also abroad, but now it is seen as a terrorist group's paper. So it's really challenging, and many things have changed. As I said, the school got closed down, the newspapers, some banks got closed down, like Bank Asya, also affiliated with Gülen community. The financial, lack of the community, we can say. But it's really, really complicated. So maybe it's topic of another video because it's really, really long. But thanks for asking, and thanks for mentioning this.
Definitely, thank you very much for your answers. Could you tell me, because your most recent research relates to cyberspace and online freedom, could you tell us more about internet freedom in Turkey and cyberspace discussions in academia, basically, how free you are to conduct your research?
Actually, in terms of freedom, I am free to conduct any kind of research, but in terms of publishing it, or in terms of talking about some specific details in the research, maybe it is not very, it's not very reasonable, or it's not very good. But yes, I had published a paper like 1 year ago about online freedoms in cyberspace, the online surveillance and the erosion of online freedoms in Turkey. Actually, the topic of cyberspace has attracted my attention for like a couple of years. I try to focus on this issue, and I think other scholars also. It's a rising trend in the academia, the cyberspace topic, cybersecurity, or metaverse and other stuff. But basically, as a summary, I can say this: online freedoms also have been under threat in the recent years, because you know that Turkey has adopted a presidential regime, a unique presidential regime, because it's unlike the American type of presidential regime, because there are no proper checks and balances system. There's only one man rule, to be honest. Maybe it's also not very good to talk about this, but this one man rule, the president controls most of the things in Turkey. So in terms of online freedoms, if you criticize, for example, the regime in a a print newspaper, yes, it's also not very recommended in Turkey. But if you also circulate your ideas on Twitter, you don't have to have many followers, or you don't have to be very, impactful social media profile. The thing is that if someone doesn't like you, for example, they can just get a screenshot of your Twitter posts, any critical post. You don't have to say anything embarrassing, or anything of a criminal content. But if you criticize, maybe some people can get this as an attempt to how can I say as an attempt
undermine you in your sphere of work, basically try to jeopardize your career or something like that. I've heard many stories about
yes.
my colleagues from Turkey who face some form of punishment for their views. Have you ever came across with this type of policy of the government impacting your personal freedoms?
Mm-hmm. Actually, I didn't see anything personal, but I try to exercise self-censorship. So sometimes when I post a tweet, I just read, oh, okay, this can be, something harmful to me, and I just delete my post. So this self-censorship is an important issue for both academics and also journalists in Turkey in recent years. Actually, I was talking about this. I couldn't remember the name of the article, but I also wrote an article about this. Criticizing presidents, but also to be seen as a criminal because of that. So these are all really complex and interrelated issues. But in terms of this discussions in Turkey, it is a really new and interesting topic. Some people analyze it from technical perspective, but I try to analyze it from democracy theory, the freedom of speech, and to what degree do we have freedom of speech while exercising our online freedoms. So because also Turkey has passed a very recent social media law, and some people name it as law against disinformation. But who will decide what is disinformation? For example, I can post something, but a person who doesn't like my idea can maybe see it as some kind of not correct information, I mean. So these are all really important currently. But thanks for asking it. Really.
Thank you. Thank you much for your answer. Dr. Burak, could you tell me about the future of Turkey? How do you perceive the future of Turkey under Erdogan regime, and what would be the likelihood of President Erdogan retiring from politics, because he has been in active politics ever since the national politics ever since 1999, I suppose.
Yes, he has been, in the early 1990s, he has been the mayor of Istanbul municipality, but he has been very active more than 3 decades, in active politics, yes. Actually, this question can be answered in 2 different ways, because next year Turkey will witness a general elections in 2023, and these are really important in terms of changing maybe the regime type, because the opposing parties defend the idea that this presidential regime is not democratic, and many of the opposing party leaders argue that they will, again return to the parliamentary regime, which is more democratic and suitable for Turkey. So I think Erdogan regime also has been facing big challenges in terms of these election propagandas. Yes, in Turkey today, media is not free, so not all the opposing actors, do have equal access to media. And as I said, the economic problems and the rising inflation and the unemployment problems will have a great impact on the future of Turkish politics. I think that Erdogan regime is not also as strong as it used to be. The main opposition bloc is also, has an important degree of support based on the opinion polls and in some other reports published by independent organizations. So I think Turkey will face a radical change next year after 2023 elections. So these elections will show what will happen in Turkish politics.
If you allow, can I ask you about the Turkish foreign policy a little bit? My question would be related to Turkish role in Syrian conflict and in Ukrainian conflict, with also some emphasis on the way Turkey is helping Syrian refugees, because Turkey has been hosting Syrian refugees, like more than 4 million Syrian refugees ever since the beginning of the Syrian uprising, the Arab Spring in Syria, that dates back to 2011. What's your view on the way the government is handling this issue?
Thank you, thank you. Actually, the migration issue is something that I didn't focus on much, but from my point of view, Turkey also has a great, numbers of refugees. But now, in terms of domestic politics, this refugee problem has been on the agenda because many people, from the Turkish society criticize the government now because there is a rising unemployment and inflation in Turkey, and some people think that these refugees also are a burden upon the shoulders of Turkish citizens. So maybe also I want to, would you agree with me in terms of this migration and the refugee issue? I think you also have some studies. Have some research about this, and also yes, the Syrian crisis. I don't know very much about the military aspect of the crisis, but it's important. Maybe you have something to say more than me.
I suppose that when it comes to Turkey and Poland, we have pretty much similar situation when it comes to refugees, because Turkey hosts like more than 4 million Syrian refugees, and Poland hosts more than 3 million Ukrainian refugees these days. So on some levels, our countries meet certain obligations towards the populations which are the most exposed, let's say, to some sort of violence from their countries of origin. If I may ask, I think the final question, I would ask you about the Turkish drone production and export to Ukraine. How important is that in warming up Turkish image around the world, because Turkey has been known for supporting Ukrainian government, but on the other hand, it supported Azerbaijan in its recent conflict with Armenia with the same type of drones. So, what's your intake in this respect?
Thank you for this question. Yes, this is also a really important topic while it's, analyzing the impact of this drone production and selling them to other states and how it impacts the image of Turkish foreign policy abroad. I had presented a paper in a conference last year about this topic, the Bayraktar TB2 drones, and how they affected Turkish foreign policy image. As you know, the son-in-law of Erdogan produces these drones, and also in Selçuk Bayraktar has been covered by the Western media to an important degree. He has been interviewed by big, Western media outlets lately. I think it's really important because not only Ukraine, but also, as you mentioned, the Azerbaijan conflict, and there are, like more than 20 different numbers of drones were sold so far. I think it's really important, and it has a really positive impact on Turkish foreign policy, because this is an image that Turkey is not dependent on foreign infrastructure for producing such kind of weapons. So it's really important, I think.
Okay, thank you very much for this interview. Thank you very much for your time. And I wish you all the best in your research, and I hope that our academic collaboration will extend beyond this interview.
Thank you so much for giving me the time and, for giving me your space to talk about my studies, my research. It is a real pleasure and it's a real opportunity. Thanks a lot, Dr. Pieter. I do appreciate.
Thank you. Have a lovely day.
Hello. Thanks.